I set up a live stream event 2 days ago, and it just won't connect. I don't know, the Zoom stuff won't connect to it, so I can't. I spent about 15 minutes going back and forth trying to do it, but it kept taking me to an old stream. So, welcome to Public Access America. We are here to talk about a few things today, and I am joined by Jeffrey, my usual host, and I am so appreciative. We're going to jump into something I just learned about that existed, race norming, which is weird. Um, Marijuana in the Olympics, that's always weird. Richard Branson goes to space. That's so kind of cool. And we're going to do all that right after the theme song. Hi, Jeffrey.
Hey, what's up?
Nothing. How are you doing today? We were just talking about how hard it is to wake up.
It is hard to wake up, but the doggo,
Hmm.
she makes sure that I'm up.
Yeah, I
So,
understand that.
nah, she's a good girl.
Mm.
And then she had to go awake, make sure that mom was awake, even though mom was definitely not awake.
Well, yeah, and once a dog asks you for something, I mean, if they go and pee on the floor after they ask you to go out, then whose fault really is it? You know what I mean?
Well, and that's the thing is like she's crate trained, so she will sleep in her
Mm,
crate all day long, or if
right.
I need to. But even still, I don't like to leave her in there terribly long.
Mm-mm.
Like she's a member of the family, and so sometimes she gets to stay the night in bed with us and gets to
Mm.
snuggle, and sometimes she's got to be in her crate because she if she doesn't get enough good sleep, she's kind of a jerk.
Mm-hmm. I
So
get that. I get that. Aren't we all the same way?
yeah, if I don't get enough sleep, I'm really a jerk.
Yeah, me too. Ah.
Sometimes if I get too much sleep, I'm a jerk. Sometimes I'm just a jerk.
Sometimes I'm just a jerk, just for the sake of being a jerk, actually. You know what I mean?
Well, depends on who earns it.
That's right. Just to let people know I can go there once in a while. I'm so sweet. I'm so caring. I'm so thoughtful that every once in a while I have to just say something like assholish just to let people know I can, you know?
Just remind people that I'm nice
Hmm.
to you because you're good to me. But then you see this other person over here, they did something that was not so nice.
That's right. And that's why I always start out nice, because it's easier to eliminate nice than it is to try and get creatively angry. You know what I mean?
Oh,
I
that's
don't
true.
I don't get angry like people get angry. I'm like, okay, that's the end of that, and I move on. I don't really get into the argument of why can't we still do what we were doing? Doesn't matter. If somebody else has made the decision, there's no use arguing it. Move on, you know?
And that's just it. As I try to give people as much of the benefit as the doubt as I can,
Hmm.
because you never know what a person has had to go through, that particular day or week or month or life.
Right.
But man, there people will show you who they are pretty quickly most of the time. And
Say thank you. Say thank
yeah,
you to that. You know?
exactly. It's like, hey, you're a nice person. It's
Yeah.
great to have you around. Hey, you're a terrible person. Thanks.
That's right. I mean, I always look at it, if somebody tells me they're an asshole right away, then I don't even have to bother knowing them. It's that friend I had for 25 years that suddenly was like, "Oh, now I'm an asshole." And I was like, "Oh, I depended on you, that sucks."
I tell people up front I'm an asshole. I know I'm an asshole.
Hmm.
It's just that, I tend to temper it a lot better than I did when I was younger. Just because it's like, there's already enough negativity in the world. It's like I
Hmm.
actually need to do my part and try to be, you know, a positive person, which is why I always say I'm positive that this is going to suck.
Well, plan ahead or fall behind. I have a theory that if you plan during happy times, you'll smile during tough times. You know what I mean?
Well, and the other thing too is that like you can tell who's been through the shit. Like when things get really difficult, you can tell for the most part who's been through the shit because it's like they're like, all right, this sucks. Okay, here's how we're gonna deal with this.
Hmm.
And then you get people who've had the silver spoon who've never had to deal with any type of hardship, and then it's like the most mild inconvenience and they fall apart. And it's like, really, this is what's ruining your life? Okay.
That's
I,
right. I always fall in love with people that have been through a struggle. And I can just tell by the way they just handle themselves if they have,
Oh, absolutely. And actually, that's a perfect segue into people going through struggle. This whole Sha'Carri Richards thing is just
Yeah.
absolutely, wow.
Yeah, let's start with that. So,
This is a
Sha'Carri,
really,
yeah, go for it.
so, Jason, do you think marijuana is a performance enhancing drug?
That is a great question. I do not, and not in sports, not in the sports field, but I think it can performance enhance in natural situations like hers.
I think so. Here's the thing: is that I think it is a performance enhancing drug if the contest is a hot dog eating contest.
There you go. There you go.
Robin Williams had a great skit on it, 20 years ago about how, marijuana enhances many things like sights, tastes, sensations. But
Mhm.
most of the time, you're lucky if you can find your own goddamn feet.
Right. Well,
So,
I have a certain perspective because when my wife passed away, I was just nothing. I was worthless. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I couldn't do anything. And then a friend came over and brought some pot over, and suddenly I could function. You know what I mean? And so I understand where she's coming from. Death
mhm.
can really, really bring you down. And death in the family of somebody that you counted on and loved and had memories with, it's a tough thing to deal with too.
But here's another aspect and avenue that we need to consider. Like those of us who have used marijuana know that there are certain strains that they just knock you on your ass. You're not doing
Mhm.
anything other than eating a bag of Cheetos. Let's be
That's right.
realistic.
That's your indicas, right?
Yeah. And then there are certain strains that, they provide you more pain relief and anxiety reductions.
Hmm.
And so you don't feel the same pains that you're used to feeling, and you don't have those same anxieties. So for some people, what they say is that by using marijuana, they're able to exercise more and not feel the pain or the anxieties that they're used to. So
Right.
could you call that performance enhancement?
That's
Here's
that's what I meant when I answered your question. Yes, it'll allow me to perform,
So now here's the question. What's the difference between something like marijuana where it has a really short lifespan
Hmm,
and your selected benefit is going to dissipate really quickly
right.
versus something like anabolic steroids,
Hmm,
where that's something that you keep in your system, and if you don't keep it up in your system, things go haywire.
yeah, right.
So to me, I don't put marijuana in the same category of performance enhancing drugs as things like anabolic steroids, because the whole point of anabolic steroids is to be able to help you pack on muscle mass. It
Hmm.
helps you do different things. Some steroids are better for healing, some steroids are better for muscle mass building.
Yep.
Whereas marijuana doesn't do either of those things.
Mm-mm.
Marijuana deals with the pain element, so you're able to, potentially work through pain, which is why sometimes it can be a little bit dangerous, like especially if you have severe injuries.
Hmm.
But but marijuana is not one of those things that you have to keep up on, or else shit goes completely sideways. And if you're a dude, you end up with a set of boobies.
Mm.
It's happened more than once.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, there's no,
Most recently, there was a case of the singer for As I Lay Dying. He got really heavily addicted to steroids, and
wow.
then and in the middle of him being completely whacked out, um, his ex-wife decided it was time to divorce because he was not anywhere close to the same person.
Sure.
Hires a hitman, tries to have her killed,
Makes
uh,
sense.
but he ended up trying to hire an ex-cop, so that didn't go well for him. And then he went to prison, and when he went to prison, they immediately cut him off of his steroids, and so he ended up getting a set of boobs.
Mm. On a side note, Richard Spencer used to take steroids to enhance his boobs in prison because he was the prison bitch. That's how he survived prison.
So with anabolic steroids and that realm of performance enhancing drugs, I mean, it's clear that you have to keep taking it, or else there's some harm to the body that will be done.
Sure.
But its usage is dedicated only towards, building muscle mass and repairing injuries. Like, to me, it's one of those things like, do I care if a player takes steroids because they're injured and they need to heal? Absolutely not. I think that's something that sports bodies need to figure out. But the problem with steroids is that there is long-term damage.
Okay.
And that's a very real thing. I've had to take steroids for injuries in the past.
Me too.
Granted, I wasn't a collegiate athlete even at the lowest level. The steroids that I had to take were for I blew out my knee. So
Right.
so to help get me healed up and at least get me back to normal, it's a very short period. The whole point of it was just to get me healed.
And they
With
reduce swelling, right? Like the prednisone I took for my eyes was to reduce the swelling, and I was on pretty big doses for a while, you know.
Oh yeah, prednisone and steroids like that have their uses for recovering a lot of different things.
Right.
Commonly, where I grew up, prednisone got prescribed for people who had been in contact with poison ivy
Ah. Okay.
because that shit's nasty. That sucks, getting poison ivy.
Yeah.
Although I wouldn't know, because for some reason everybody else around me would get into poison ivy and they would end up getting rashed out and everything.
Right.
Poison ivy never did anything to me. But I've
Okay.
also found out that my grandfather was the same way. Like, poison ivy didn't bother him at all either. So
Isn't it cool? Like
that's
the
a
things
real
you pass
weird.
on genetically.
That's a weird one. It's like, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to go out there and grab a handful of poison ivy and test that theory, but I know that all of us have been through the same, like when I was working for the USDA, all of us have been through the same stuff, tying our shoes, hands in the stuff, and
Hmm.
they would get poison ivy and I wouldn't.
Right. You don't decide where you go. You just go where you're needed. I totally
Yeah,
get it.
and I mean, and it's like all of us were in the same spot, like walking through the same stuff. So, it wasn't that I wasn't exposed. I just
Right.
never reacted to it.
Mm.
And the body changes every so often, so it's you do regenerate your cells, and there's no way in hell I'm going to go out there and test that theory and find a bunch of poison ivy and see if I'm still good with it. I'm just going to
Right.
count my blessings that I've never had.
Me too, actually. I've never had it, but I've stepped on a fire ant hill and that hurts like hell too.
I took a
Great
dump on a fire ant hill and they all bit my ass. I was three
great
years
buzz
old.
though. Did you get a great buzz from it? I get a great buzz from it.
I was
Oh,
3 years
yeah.
old. Apparently, I just got a butt hurt from getting my fire ants eating my ass while I was taking a shit on their home.
Wow, I
So,
think we just found the origin story of butthurt. I love that. Speaking of butthurt, the White House is reaching out to the Olympic Committee that drafts these rules so that they can talk about having marijuana taken off the
uh,
list. The
okay,
next
yeah.
meeting is in November, but it looks like they want to have talks sooner than that. Do you really think they have a role in this, the White House? Like
They
it's a
have a role.
it's an okay rule until an American gets caught with it, and then suddenly the White House is involved.
So here's where this is where this is bullshit.
Hmm.
So does the White House have a role
Yeah,
in
do they?
marijuana? Absolutely, and not where you think. The White House has a responsibility in figuring out how do you legalize marijuana. And
Hmm.
then from there, you let all of these other sports bodies figure out for themselves what these policies look like. If it's legal, then who gives a shit?
Because yeah, that is that's a point in order of this is that it
Yeah,
is legal where she smoked it in Portland, Oregon, you know,
absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
it's legal in other parts of the world. And I don't know if it makes a difference. And I hate when people do this, but alcohol is perfectly legal, and the effects of it are just as damaging as smoking marijuana. So I don't
I
see a
would
big
argue that
difference there.
alcohol is far more damaging than marijuana is, but but reality speaking, the fact that the White House is acting all butthurt about this,
Hmm.
but not doing anything to actually change the laws regarding marijuana,
Right.
it's just it's some very cute virtue signaling is all it is.
Yes, it's democratic hand wringing.
Oh God, I can't believe that they affected a black woman like this. So you're going to legalize marijuana, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Right.
no, it's such bullshit.
So I had this image like the swamp, right? And,
Hmm.
and the swamp isn't where politicians are, but imagine a coliseum where the floor of the coliseum is a swamp. And
Hmm.
good ideas just go into the swamp. And then
Hmm.
Democrats just wring their hands and cry and go, "Oh my God, our idea is dying." And Republicans are like, "Ha ha ha ha, we killed their idea." But all the ideas are dying in the swamp. You can drain the swamp, you'll just find some really good ideas. You know what I mean?
But yeah, and that's the thing is like, Clarence Thomas even said it in a recent ruling that the Fed's enforcement of marijuana policies doesn't make any sense at this point, where you have states where it's legal and states where it's not. And from a
Mhm.
federal perspective, they need to shit or get off the pot, either legalize it or don't.
You just get out of our way. It's a right. It's a right for me to do what I want to do. Let me do what I want to do if it doesn't harm another person.
And the feds had their chance to be the ones to legalize it and say, you know what, we're going to legalize it and we're going to put a federal tax on it. They
Right.
had their chance to do that early on. They chose not to. So now it's going to the feds just need to remove it from the restrictions and let states figure out if they're going to legalize it or not.
Hmm.
I think ultimately states should legalize it and tax it if they so choose. I mean, I have my own feelings on taxes, but I can say though that states like Washington and Colorado definitely, they definitely learn some things about legalizing it and how you take that money and spend it. I
Hmm.
would argue that they didn't learn enough lessons, but here we are.
Here we are. Yeah. No, I totally agree with what you're saying. It should be legalized, but I think every state gets to make their own decision. I don't expect like Louisiana or Alabama to go hog wild on the marijuana legalization when most of their income comes from incarcerating black and brown people for dealing that marijuana. You know what I mean?
Well, and that's the thing is like you've got a bunch of people who are literally living in this underground life where they're
Mm-hmm.
buying marijuana, where they're growing it and they're selling it, or they're purchasing it from the cartel, God forbid.
Right.
And the reality is that you have all of this quote unquote underground business that could be quote unquote above ground in the sunlight business that
Mm-hmm.
is actually paying taxes into state coffers rather than not.
So you're
So
saying the trade-off in the cost of penalties by arresting these people and putting them through the system, it would be equal to the taxes they would get if they just made it all legal.
greater, it would be greater. The savings that you would get from not having to put all of these people through the system
Mm-hmm.
would drastically reduce the amount of time that you're going to spend on victimless crimes, number one. But
Right.
number two, the additional gains that you're going to get from having above ground industries that are, number one, paying business taxes, number two, hiring people to do the work and paying them a wage
Mm.
that is then taxed, and then number three, giving them access to banking so that way all of this stuff is literally tracked and traced. I mean, you can
Right.
literally figure all of this stuff out very quickly. Like, to me, there's no reason why it shouldn't be done. Like, for example, Montana has the state seal liquor system,
Right.
where you have state certified liquor shops where you can go and buy hard alcohol. There's
Right.
no reason why other states can't adopt something similar with regards to marijuana. You have
Yeah.
either state seal stores or you have an entire board. We have the liquor and cannabis board here in
Mhm.
in Washington state, and you have you have a lot of inspections, you have a lot of rules, and people who try to sidestep those rules get caught. In fact, there was a couple of businesses here in Olympia that actually got busted, and a couple of people are going to jail because they thought they could be real cute and siphon off a little product here and there to be able to sell it on the quote unquote black market, and they got
Ah.
busted. But on the other side too, what you also have to look at from a public health perspective is when you have these above ground stores, you also don't have the same issues that you have with your regular street dealers where they don't know if they're getting ditchweed, they don't know if they're getting good stuff. You don't know
Exactly.
if you're getting stuff that's fucking laced. And with
Right.
fentanyl being the problem that it is right now, there are numbers of cases out there right now where marijuana is being laced with fentanyl.
That's disgusting. And there has to be some form of standard regulations. You know what I
That's
mean?
and that's what these liquor and cannabis boards and state seal stores are doing is they're regulating it start to finish. Like
Mm.
they know how much is coming off the field, they know how much is going into the bag, they know how much is making it to the store, they know how much is getting sold
Right.
at the store. Like it is tracked and traced, much like their alcohol. And so and it's state taxed. So
Yep.
you can then decide, does it go towards education, does it go towards healthcare, does it go towards other public works that you need. Like
Mm.
there is just no point where things are at right now with this weird hokey pokey of laws. I mean, let's be realistic, there's still places in the South where counties are dry counties,
Yeah.
in terms of liquor. And great. If counties want to decide that that stuff's not available there, cool. It just means somebody's going to go to the next county over and get it, but that's
So
whatever.
weird. And sometimes dry means you can get beer but not liquor. It's just a weird thing, you know? Like everybody has their own thing. But I do have a question involving Sha'Carri, and
Yeah.
that is the other side of the coin, and I want to address it really quick. Like she knew the rule, right?
Hmm.
And she knew this was something that could possibly get her kicked out, and she made a bad
Hmm.
decision.
Yep.
Shouldn't she have to pay for that in some way? I'm not saying I'm saying that rule shouldn't exist, but that the fact that it does exist means she should pay some sort of penalty, right?
So this is where you get this really weird issue of she knew the rule and she broke the rule knowing it,
Mm-hmm. Right.
and knowing that there would be repercussions for it. Does that mean, this is one of those ones where it's like I have a real hard time with this one simply because
Me too.
when the rule is really dumb,
Mm-hmm.
you can sit down and say, "Oh yeah, well she knew the rule and she broke it anyways." But at the same time, this rule doesn't necessarily make any sense.
Right.
It's a bad rule.
But it was a bad rule before she got caught.
Yeah. And one of the things that we have to take into consideration is, do the rules that exist meet society's current level of understanding? And the answer in this case I believe has to be no.
Right.
But unfortunately, because the rule exists, she is going to be punished for it, whether or not I support the rule or not. And
Right.
it's unfortunate. Now the question is, was the rule applied fairly?
Yeah, I wanted to know about more of a gray area. She is an amazing athlete. If you've ever seen her run, you want to see her run on the biggest stage possible. And I just don't think marijuana increases or diminishes her productivity to where it would make a difference in the race. You know, she's not going to win because she took a puff. You know what I mean?
Well, and one of the things that I haven't had the chance to look up is whether or not Michael Phelps uh, was suspended after he got busted smoking weed.
Right. And it does say that this board that does these regulations for sports, some of the sports marijuana is okay, and some of them it isn't. Because somebody was saying, I know the whole snowboarding team is high, you know, and
Right, exactly.
there's
Like,
been yeah. I just think it's a matter of yeah, I don't know. It's a black and white thing that shouldn't be there. And like Gandhi said, the truth, even to one person, is still the truth. A bad
yeah,
rule is still a bad rule. You know what I mean? I just wish somebody had addressed it I'm so tired of backfilling common sense instead of looking forward and planning ahead, you know? Like 20 years ago, somebody should have said, wow, they're starting to legalize it around the world. We should have a discussion on it. Not when one of the top athletes in the world, smokes it. And she's going to be suspended for the amount of time that weed is usually in your system. You know what I mean? 30 days. That just
well,
sucks. It
well, and
sucks.
here's the thing: is like weed is in your system, but it's not active in your system, and
Yeah,
that's what most people
exactly.
don't like. Most people don't think about that. I mean, we've already got, like, for example, Arizona had a really unique case that I worked on where we we showcase that, there are two cannabis carboxyls
Mm-hmm.
that break down. And one carboxyl is your active ingredient, the one that gets you goofy or gives you the relief. And then
Right.
the other carboxyl is what is been used and is still just sitting in your system. It's inactive, it's inert, there's nothing happening. You're not under the influence.
Right. It's a residual.
And so, being able to showcase is like, we had this whole, if marijuana's in your system, at all, then you were stoned. Well,
Right.
that's not true, because you can have marijuana in your system and you're not affected by it. It's not like
Mm-hmm.
alcohol, where when alcohol's in your system, it's affected by it and then it breaks down and it gets flushed out of your system.
Right.
So I just looked up what happened in 2009 with Michael Phelps.
Mm-hmm.
So Michael Phelps did not test positive for marijuana, but he got caught smoking a bong.
Right.
And so interesting that, he got caught smoking a bong, but they didn't drug test him. Number one. Number two, they suspended him for 3 months
Wow.
because of that incident. And
So
number four,
what was the
number,
timing of that? I want to know. Was he
but
suspended during any major events or just after everything?
it was during the off season. So
Yeah, that's what
this
I
was
thought.
May 2009, so it would have been after the 2008
So
Olympics.
I'd be fine if she was suspended after the Olympics for a month.
Well, and that's the problem, is that, they're not gonna be like, oh yeah, no, this is totally cool up to the Olympics, but then once you're
Yeah.
done, you got to punish you for it. That would
Yeah.
be, as much
But
as I hate
would
it.
it be even more hypocritical to suspend her and then in November change the rule, eliminating it?
Um, yes and no. That's a tough one. So looking at what happened with Phelps, where he got a 3 month suspension, but
Mm-hmm.
he never tested positive. Whereas you
Right.
got Sha'Carri, who's only getting a month suspension, literally just long enough to not be able to compete in the Olympics.
Right.
I mean, in theory, like if you were actually going for, does the punishment fit the crime? In theory, the idea would be that she would be suspended for a lot longer because she had tested positive for it. But the reality here is that it's still a stupid rule.
It's still a
um,
stupid rule. And I don't think missing the Olympics, I think when you're saying punishment fits the crime, I don't think that fits the crime at all. You're missing an athlete's time on this earth is precious, and you only get maybe two Olympics in your lifetime that you can compete in, and taking one away from her, that I just don't think that that matches the crime. I think that's excessive.
and on top of that, it's, punishing somebody for using something that's legal in the state that they were in also doesn't make
Right.
any sense to me.
Right.
Like, literally at this point, the only, because here's the question, yes, we don't consider alcohol to be a performance enhancing drug, but they can go out drinking every single night
Exactly.
and it's perfectly legal.
And
So
it
to
was
me, the idea that anybody could be punished for taking something that was perfectly legal in that regard,
right.
but they're trying to call it a performance enhancing drug when I would argue that it's not even close
It
to a
isn't.
performance enhancing drug.
Although, like I said, in grief, it allows you to perform. And that's a necessary and important point here because she was grieving at the time.
It allows you to heal, it allows you to focus, it allows you to,
Yeah.
deal with
Eat.
anxieties. It,
Yeah.
for some people, yes, very much allows them to eat. But the idea, putting it on the same level as anabolic steroids, though, doesn't make any sense from a
Right.
scientific, like like it made sense when it was an illegal drug.
Hmm.
I'll put it that way. It made sense when it was illegal. It does not make sense now that so many states have legalized it, and the
Right.
feds have just failed to keep up with that. It doesn't make sense.
So testing positive in somewhere in a legal location as opposed to a non-legal location, like say Japan doesn't have legalized marijuana. So there's a difference. Don't bring the marijuana to Japan. Test clean before you compete. because it was legal where you were, just like alcohol, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
But we don't want people stoned or drunk running in the Olympics, right? But
Right.
if you're testing clean by the time your race happens and you did it legally where you were, it should be fine. She should be allowed to run.
Like for example, like if here's something that would make sense to me. If the rule was you can't race while you're stoned,
Right.
it's like, okay, cool. That would mean that once they run the race, you do a blood draw to confirm that they weren't stoned.
Hmm. Well, then you need to create a test that determines whether
They do
someone's
that
stoned
already
or
with
not. Yeah.
well, they do that with doping already. This is
Yeah.
already a thing.
Okay.
This is already a thing. So, being able to test athletes, to make
Yeah.
sure that they're not doping, they
Right.
already do that. So the idea that you can't test for whether or not they've used marijuana is it's a moot point.
Well, I mean, whether it's an active or inactive in your
Yep.
system. If you're
And that
testing for the inactive ingredient and you find it, but not the active ingredient, they're not stoned, right? So
exactly,
it's just the
exactly,
test they use, I guess.
exactly. So like that would be one of those things. Would I be fine if the rule was you can't race stoned? Yes, because
Right.
like you said, amongst a number of countries, it's illegal. So the idea that
Hmm.
people are going to be able to have their hands on it
Right.
is, you know, for the spirit of competition, everybody should be on the same playing field in that
Agreed.
regard. Um, but in terms of whether or not somebody should be able to use it off of a race cycle, like
Right.
I don't think that's an issue that should be brought up at this point.
Okay.
I just
Yeah.
I think that they because the active ingredients get out of your system so fast it doesn't make
Right.
sense.
It doesn't make sense. And drug testing needs to be reevaluated in all of our employment. But I do want to bring this up because I told people we were going to talk about it. And I don't know this. When I read about this, I had no idea this existed. But then when I read that it involved medical calculations and decisions and calculators, I was like, this might be Jeffrey's sort of thing. So there's this thing maybe it's in insurance and it's in medicine. It's how they determine your risk for stuff. And it's called race
Race
norming,
norming. Yep.
right? And some of the other names here, because I just wanted to get these out there, is race correction, ethnic
Hmm.
adjustment, and race adjustment. Now, when they determine factors for your risk for things like your age, the amount of pain, and all of those things, one of the determining factors on whether you might have kidney stones or cancer is race.
Hmm.
And so actually what it's based on is the fact that the NFL quit using this just recently, I want to say.
Yep.
And the NFL was determining in lawsuits, dementia lawsuits, that black men had diminished capacity, cognitive capacity to begin with. And so they had to show a more drastic loss of function than white guys did, basically saying black guys aren't as smart as white guys. So if they lose more, it's not as bad, and they shouldn't be able to sue. and
Yeah.
and holy cow, and they do this in stuff like liver functions or kidney stones or oncology results. And then
Mm.
I thought maybe you might know a little bit about this being in the medical industry, you know what I mean? And that's why I sent you, for full disclosure, I did send you this article yesterday,
Hmm.
last night, so I don't know how much you had a chance to review it.
So I reviewed it a little bit, but a lot of these articles are, I
Hmm.
mean, they're sensationalist, and it's really
Yeah.
hard to get to the root of the issue. And so what we have to start with the understanding is that everybody is different, and everybody, depending on their background, is going to have a different set of abilities. Their body chemistries are different.
Right.
There are a large number of variables that you have to take into account. Like, for example, um, one of the things that had commonly been said, like, let's use the Native American population, their ability to tolerate alcohol is a lot different than most other people's ability to tolerate alcohol, because there is an enzyme that's missing within their liver that allows them to break down alcohol as um, as most other people do. Now, I'm not familiar with whether or not that's actually true. That's a claim that I know that is out there.
Right. Oh, there's
Um,
also a claim that says when they drink, they get angry. Now, that's a stereotype. But medically, if you can prove something until it's unproven, it's proof.
well, and here's the thing: is I hate this idea. That's the idea of proof, because when they drink what? Because let me tell you something about what it looks like when I drink.
Oh
When
my
I
God,
drink
yeah.
vodka, I drink vodka, I am like almost like weed level chilled out.
Yeah.
Whiskey used to make me violently ill. It's
Mm.
actually not so much the case anymore. Tequila, I call it my Jekyll and Hyde, because I don't know if
Me
I'm going to end
too.
up wanting to fight you or if I just want to take off my pants.
Me too.
And I don't have
All of those.
any way of knowing which one's going to happen. So I just tend to
Mhm.
avoid that one because I don't like fighting.
Right?
I like taking off my pants, and apparently I'm very like, hey, can I take off my pants when I'm on tequila?
Okay.
But
Well,
no.
Jose Cuervo and I are going to make a visit to Washington coming up soon. I like this.
But it's, you know, it's one of those things like, so the idea that people get angry when they get drunk, it's very different depending on what a person's drinking.
That's my point.
Everybody is different. Everybody processes different alcohols differently.
Nothing is monolithic.
Exactly. So, and what makes me a fighter for one person makes somebody else a lover.
That's right.
So the idea like this weird concept of race norming, I would argue is the bastard child of eugenics.
Okay.
I mean, think about it. The idea that black men had lower cognitive functions to begin with,
Right.
like, where in the fuck did you get that?
That's the point. Slavery, Jim Crow, like all of that. That's where it all comes
Right.
from. There's something else that says a study that says you're less likely to get kidney stones if you're black because generally black people are more muscular. That's a study they're going off of. And by the way, race norming, it became popular in 1990. This isn't like a Jim Crow thing, you know.
Right. But it's still one of those things that
It's an evolution of it. Yeah.
it's an evolution of it. It's like, okay, we've got the really fucking awful and overt thing out of the way, so
Right.
let's try and make it a little bit more subtle and see if anybody catches it.
Hmm.
Which, by the way, if you're starting to feel triggered that we might be talking about critical race theory, well,
It's so funny. Somebody was talking about that and they were saying white people don't like critical race theory, but it actually takes the guilt off of their hands. But the problem is that then it does make them need to do something. And
mm,
white people, they don't want the guilt, but they also don't want to do anything, you know.
that's the fucking truth.
But welcome to society, nobody does. I mean, I don't think that's
Also,
a
that
white thing. I just think like I don't know.
like
Nobody cares about the other side. Women don't care about men's rights. Men don't care about women's rights. You know, it's just nobody cares about anybody but themselves.
yeah, and that's just it. Is that it's just all insane.
But to say
So
that there isn't a black man on the planet that isn't smarter than me, I'm guessing there is billions of them, you know? And so
I'm
I
guessing
don't,
I know that there's at least a few out there.
right. And so I don't understand stereotyping it that way. I don't understand how race is involved in so many. What I see is more as a capitalism thing. Like you're going to pay a higher rate if you're a smoker for insurance. You're going to pay a higher rate for being black in the NFL. I think it's just these little
Mhm.
things they do to increase their profits. You know what I mean? Because if the league is 90% African American and you can eliminate 90% of the people just by saying, oh, if you're black, you get less, then there's
Right.
their profit margin. You know what I mean?
But that's
Also
and this
disgusting.
yeah. So I mean, in different industries, you see it manifest in different ways. So, like
Mhm.
for example, in the insurance industry, you saw this manifest in where they would put higher premiums in certain zip codes and not in other zip codes, and it wasn't based on anything that had to do with crime. It was just the fact that the population was majority black.
Right.
And so when insurance companies got busted for that. It's no different in that, if you're putting health insurance out there,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the ways that you determine premium is the race of an individual. That's yikes, man.
That's yikes. And you're right. That is critical race theory, isn't it?
But
It's just an offshoot of it.
absolutely,
It's not law, it's medicine.
and that's just it though. It's not an objective thing like smoking, where it doesn't matter if you're black, white, brown.
Right.
It doesn't matter. Smoking is bad for your lungs regardless of what race you are. That's a
Right.
that's a health decision that is bad for you. Excessive alcohol consumption is bad for your liver. Doesn't matter what race you are.
Also bad for your friendships, by the way. But moving on.
But that too. Bad for family life too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It really destroys every aspect of your life like a frog in a boiling pot. You just don't realize it.
It's like putting a frog in a boiling pot, except that boiling pot also has a blender attachment in it.
Yeah, right. That hurts everybody around you, but not you.
Right. Seriously.
But
So so
but
like
to each their own.
so that's where you have like these pseudosciences that somehow,
Hmm.
people of a different race are somehow lesser than, a
Right.
white person's cognitive abilities. That's bullshit. That's
It,
absolute bullshit.
you can't prove.
Now,
I mean, it can't be proved.
no, it cannot be. Because, so what's your sample pool in that then?
Yeah,
Is your
that's what I was
sample
gonna
is your
say.
sample pool going to be like the quarterback who notoriously doesn't take as many hits, who, if you
Right.
look at it, most quarterbacks in the NFL are white, versus, your running backs and your receivers who are constantly getting fucking lit up?
Hmm.
Like, I hate to tell you this, but you don't even have to know the game of football all that well. Literally, you can just go to boxing to see how cognitive ability is affected by repeated blows to the head.
Right.
So when you don't have repeated blows to the head, your cognitive ability actually is maintained. Whereas if you keep having these repeated traumas to the head, your cognitive ability is going to dissipate. I mean,
Right.
that is medical science. The more blows to the head that you get, the more that it's going to affect your brain's ability to function in any regard.
Right.
Which is
But
why one of the reasons why I've said that the NFL is a dangerous sport, and it's more dangerous than we've ever really realized. Because, you know, do we love seeing these fucking hard, vicious hits? Yes, till you start realizing like there's real brain damage going on there, and like that's a problem.
that's the problem. But I don't think unless it's a case by case basis, you can determine that one race has a starting point of a lower cognitive ability than another race, you know?
And here's the other issue. Like, where do you start? Where is your metric of starting that cognitive
Right.
ability test? Is it in middle
Right.
school when they first start playing, tackle football? Is it in high school when they're starting to play JV and varsity? Is it
Mhm.
in college when they're finally starting to play at, like, what would be an amateur level, semi-pro
Right.
level? Is it in the NFL at the beginning before they start their tenure in the NFL? Is it at the
Right.
end of their tenure? Because during that entire stretch of time, you're having repeated blows to the head.
Mhm.
And that's the thing. Like, as a middle schooler, yeah, the hits weren't very hard. Don't get me wrong, but it's still taking a hit to the head, and when you hit the ground hard enough, it rings your bell.
Yeah.
In high school, that's when I got my concussion, and I got a fucking ringer that's I'm still dealing with to this day.
Yes, I know people the same way, kids, nephews that are still dealing with it, years after it. And the other question I have is if white people have a higher cognitive ability due to some study, have you studied how women, how their cognitive abilities are, or the LGBT? Because maybe we're just have to gonna get a gay female quarterback because her cognitive ability is a higher baseline than the white guy. You know what I mean?
And that's just it, is that
Where did
typically
it
what
stop?
you well,
You know?
this is a larger issue in terms of medical science, and
Hmm.
I know that Debbie would be able to argue this one absolutely fantastically.
Well,
But
good. We can have a
medicine is
continued conversation then.
medicine is very male centric,
Yeah.
and treatments are very, very much figured out by testing on men.
White
And
male centric.
so
Right.
when it comes to actually applying that medicine to the general population, it usually doesn't work as well as it could, because you don't it's like saying, I'm just going to take a little bit of data right here and I'm just going to try this, and then I'm going to say, yeah, that works for everybody, but your sample is so fucking biased.
Exactly. Good point.
So if you bias your sample that hard, and then you're like, well, I don't understand why this isn't working. Well, it's because your sample fucking sucked dick.
Right. And I think there's too many studies like that around. I just don't know why medical professions aren't constantly evaluating that.
I think you're going to start seeing that more. At least I hope, as they start to realize that, hey, we're making decisions without the best data possible. And so we
Right.
need to have more data, because more data means that you're going to be able to fine tune and tailor this in a way that allows you to address, you know, whatever it is that you're looking to address. But this idea that, we're only going to test on one very select sample size and then
Right.
extrapolate that out to
Everyone.
all these other things, all these
Hmm.
other people that we didn't test on,
Yeah.
like, that's just bad science. That's just bad science is what that is.
And why are you using a calculator to determine kidney stones when you could use an ultrasound and find them? Like
Right.
like why do you have to use a calculator that says, "Oh, this guy is black," when you can use an ultrasound that says, "Oh, there's kidney stones." So,
But
uh,
also too, you also have to look at, it's like, what is a person's medical ability to go in and deal with kidney stones? Is it that they actually
right.
don't get kidney stones, or is it actually that they can't afford to get into a fucking doctor in order to see anybody about their kidney stones? Like,
Right.
this is bad data gives you bad results. And so when all of a sudden
Hmm.
you're like, well, we didn't know. Fuck you, you didn't know. You chose not to know. You picked bad data for a reason. You picked it
Right.
because this looked really rosy to you and you could turn it into something useful. Whereas if you had actually stepped back and actually pulled in all of the data and been like, now that I'm looking at this doesn't look like I thought it did. And then
Yeah.
actually start to work from there. Sorry, as a
Exactly.
data person, shit like this pisses me
I
off.
know, that's why I picked this story, honestly.
Like, as a data person, this shit pisses me off so bad, because then they sit down and they try to do this whole, oh, well, we didn't know. Fuck you, you didn't know. You chose to pick a very select and biased sample size, and now
Mm,
you're trying to pull the I'm surprised and we're sorry card. Fuck you.
right. If you ever do a study and it ends up being black people are more, you need to evaluate that more. Right? If you do a study and says only white people, you need to keep going with that study. Don't stop at a 2,000 person
Like,
poll to find out that Republicans hate us.
and
Like,
and
do
and
your
seriously,
math.
like seriously, like, if you actually, like, if you find that it's something that's significant within the sample size, then it
Right.
means that that's something that you need to expand out on to confirm, because you might have a bias in there that you don't realize.
Mm-hmm.
you know is it possible that, I mean, for example, there's one thing that we do know for sure: black people have more melanin. Like, that's actually a thing.
It's a fact. Yeah.
That's a medical fact. So I mean, to say that it's not possible is medically speaking and numerically speaking, there's definitely a possibility that there are select changes, because, well, we know theory of evolution. You
Mm-hmm.
adapt to your environment and your surroundings.
Mm-hmm.
So there are absolutely going to be some things that are prevalent in certain groups of people that aren't in others.
Right.
But something like this, like cognitive function, I'm
Exactly.
sorry, that's bullshit. That's
Exactly.
absolutely bullshit. It's fucking Jim Crow bullshit. It's fucking slavery bullshit. It's eugenics bullshit.
It's capitalism bullshit. I'm sorry.
It's
I just think that way. I think as soon as a doctor sees me as a white man, he has a certain perspective about me. And when a black woman goes in, I think it's diminished.
I mean,
And
anecdotally speaking, I've known that that's happened. I have
Mhm.
a friend whose mother, black, couldn't get the care that she needed,
Right, it
being 90
happens.
years old. She didn't know her own body at 90 years old. She's as sharp as a fucking tack, and her tongue's even sharper yet.
Hmm.
But they wouldn't listen to her. until some, it's like, hey, I'll be your volunteer white dude, and one of my
Oh yeah, you
friends,
told me about that.
yeah, and
Right.
one of my friends goes in and says, no, this, you need to actually, oh, sorry, well, let's actually do this. And
Right.
it's like, you got to be fucking kidding me. The fact that you can't listen to a woman who's 90 years old, who knows her fucking body, who's of sound mind and body.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's bullshit. It's absolutely bullshit. I know
Yeah.
for a fact that, like, when it comes to my medical care, like, I can sit down and talk with any doctor, and they're going to listen to me, and they're going to sit down and say, oh, okay, so based on what you're telling me, this is
Right.
probably the course of treatment. But if Debbie has the exact same thing going on,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be, are you on your period? Have you pooped? Do you have to fart? When was the last
Right.
time you? It's like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Right. They drag it back to the basics.
And so it is bullshit,
Yeah.
and it is time that medical science actually work with the data sets that are out there and stop fucking cherry picking.
Or start
Because
realizing that everyone's an individual and you need to start with that until you see the consistencies. You know what I mean? Like, don't assume that I'm going to be one thing because I'm one thing, but prove it to yourself. Run the test, find out, and then go forward. But don't ever give me medical advice based on an assumption or an opinion. You know what I mean? Until you have proof, don't assume that anybody is one way or another. You
like,
know?
it's one thing to say, it's one thing to be a math person and sit down and say, the statistical likelihood of somebody
Mm-hmm.
having X disease is, you know, 1.5%, because we've only found it in 1.5% of the population. But that doesn't mean that because it's only 1.5% of the population that you're not that 1.5%. You actually have to run the test to confirm. And
That,
and the reality has been that
yes.
they don't want to run these tests because these tests cost money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yes, the test costs money, but so does the treatment. But you know what the treatment does? It keeps me from having to come back here time and time and time and time and time again.
Yep.
It's like, hey, my car's making a funny noise. Well, there's only a 1.5% chance that it's, your piston ring going out. Well, fucking check it, because I don't want to have to keep coming back here until my fucking engine blows up.
Hey, Jeffrey.
Yo, what's
Thanks
up?
for being here at Public Access America. We're going to wrap up because we're going to start our next hour and our guest is here. So, yay!
Oh, it's
So,
time.
if you're a podcaster, then tune in next Thursday for what we're about to talk about. And if you're a live streamer, get ready for Adam.
Ding dong.
I don't see
Yes.
him yet.
I see his background.
Yay! We didn't even get to Billionaires in Space. I'm kind of happy about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, well, I hear A Dog beating it in the background there.
Beating it in the background.
I'm gonna go fill up my coffee cup again, because let's
Okay.
face it, I'm gonna need some extra coffee to talk to you crazy bastards.
Yeah.
What is going on here, Jay? Oh,
Hey, hey. There he is. What's up? Adam's in the house.
what's up, my dude? What are you doing, man? How you been? I love you, man. Fuck, I miss you.
Me too. I know you're busy out there.
Fuck, man. This is, the thing about mental health, man, is like if you find something that you're like really enjoying.
Mhm.
For example, this job, man, I love this job. I fucking love this job. It used to be before. I was like, man, come 4:30, fuck, I'm out. Goodbye.
Right.
Now, come 4:00, 4:30. Oh man, we have 2 more hours to go. This job could be done. You know what? Fuck it. Let's just stay. Everybody's like, yeah, you're excited about it. I'm excited about it. Let's fucking do this.
Well, yeah. I love
So,
that.
yeah, me too, man. It's
I'm
just like,
glad you're happy. I really am.
yeah, it's taxing. It's taxing, brother. But you know what? I'm
Right.
happy. I am happy.
I
Hell yeah.
love it.
Oh man, dude, like, I get it. Like, I have been so, like, stressed at my job lately because we're so understaffed.
Oh,
But the thing is like, I still love what I do and who I do it for. So it's
yes.
like I'm pushing because I know that it's coming, and I know
Mhm.
that relief is on the way. But man, it has been a slog.
I get it, dude. I get it. It's a nightmare. We're understaffed as well. I imagine all of the workforce right now is just going through that, where they're like, well, shit, we need like 32 more people, but we can only hire 10.
Right.
Because literally that's the number of people that have applied.
Yeah, exactly. That's it, exactly. And they are underqualified. They don't know how to do their job, whether it be my job or your job. They don't know how to do the job. Yeah, I'm just here to party, bro. I need some party money. Well,
Well,
fuck, came into the wrong. You know what? Let's give them a rip, see what happens.
Yeah.
Well, that's, and I've been telling people too, it's like right now, like if you're working a job and you're not sure if you could get in at a different job, like if you've got a lot of the qualifications but not all of them, and there's a job that's out there in a different place that pays better, like now is your time to apply and try and get that job, get that better money. Because I
Yes.
guarantee you, by the end of the month, I think that's going to start changing very quickly.
Yep.
And that those openings are going to start becoming slimmer, and
Yep.
the pay that those jobs are going to have are going to become a lot lower,
Yeah.
because there's going to be a number of people that are going to be returning to the workforce, whether they're
Yeah.
ready to or not.
Yeah, and a majority of the workforce here that I'm seeing is like they're all working from home. So now we have all these buildings, just vacant buildings. Trust me, I'm trying to get into to make the Ahab Studios or something, some weird
Nice.
sex couch thing. I don't know.
Sex couch thing.
I don't know, but all these buildings are vacant now. Everybody's working from home. So now everybody's got that new anxiety of like, how can I make this work? But yet now I'm home. It's summertime. The kids are like, well, fuck, can you make me a donut or a fucking dinner? Fuck, it's 9:00 in the morning. You know what I mean? Now that they got a parent home, now you got new added stresses. You got new added factors to include into mental health. You know what I mean? I hate to bring it back around to that, but it's how are people going to do this now? They're understaffed at work, but they're all working from home. Now they got all these factors that just suck. So how do we do it?
I think, in terms of like the business world, what I'm seeing is that there's a lot of companies out there that are starting to reassess what jobs need to be done in the office and what jobs are work from home jobs.
Yeah.
Because the reality is that there are a lot of jobs out there that really you don't need somebody to be in an office, and you're better off paying for their internet service,
right,
and supplying them a computer, because you actually free up that space to be able to do whatever else you might need with it.
Yeah.
So, people, they've also found that there's a lot of people that are there's been a lot more productivity because people aren't having to commute several hours a day.
Right.
So they're getting time back. They're not having to worry about whether the kids are going to grandma's or to daycare or to, some summer school camp out in, bumfuck Egypt. And
right. Eatonville. You're exactly right, man. I mean, now they can closely supervise, but with that close supervision, now you like I said, you got that added stress of like, well, now I'm on a meeting, but now the kid needs something, dude. Figure that out. You know what I mean? So how now that these other people who are working from the offices, they're still, half of them are still afraid. You know what I mean? Like, the virus might get me, motherfucker. Do your due diligence. If you need to, get vaccinated or what? Just wear your mask and go to work, man. How about that?
Right now, and I don't know how much you've seen, Adam, is that right now 99.2% of all deaths in the United States are people who aren't vaccinated.
Well, it's
literally people are literally dying from preventable diseases at this point.
Dude, I don't know how much more we need to like see about the rest of the world. The Asian countries, like I think we've discussed this many a times before. They're wearing their masks. You know what? Overpopulation. You're going to have these diseases floating around, coughs, flu, sniffles, butthole diseases, whatever the fuck is going to happen. Wear your mask. How about that? Without worried about it. You don't want to get vaccinated. That's cool too. You know what? Anti-vaxxers, there's nothing wrong with you, man. Just wear a mask.
Yeah. And so, and that's the thing is like, I'm not worried about it at this point, having had it, having been vaccinated, the data is showing that, even despite the Delta variant, people who got, the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines are, still solid in terms
Yeah.
of their caseload. I mean, the reality is that, are there still going to be deaths and hospitalizations? Yeah,
Sure.
but it's actually going to look more akin to what it looks like for the flu and pneumonia now. And actually, what I was doing some of the math last week for Jason, and it's actually about, right now, as it sits, the mortality rate for cases to deaths is 1.8%. And so that's for COVID. The actual death count of the actual death rate for flu pneumonia is 0.1%. But once you get vaccinated for COVID, the actual death rate is like 0.0007%. If I did the math right.
Well, how about this? Get vaccinated.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's one of those things. Literally, at this point, the privilege of being able to decline a vaccine is a very American thing at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, well, let's get started. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Public Access in America. I had a simple question, and I brought the crew on to be here. Joining me, as always, is Jeffrey, co-host of Public Access America. Also joining us is host of Adam Has a Beard and manager of Elements Divide, and luckily for us, a public access contributor. So I appreciate y'all being here. I asked you a simple question yesterday or the day before, right?
Yes,
And I wanted to get into it. It was a question that had originated on Inspirations Beyond Disabilities. And so I kind of wanted to continue the conversation. And Adam, I'm going to start with you and just ask you the question, what's a man? What is he supposed to be? What is he supposed to do? What is he supposed to project to his family, friends, and the world,
Dude, it's a kind of a tricky thing, these days, because most of us grown up with that macho attitude, macho father, macho grandfather. I never had my grandfather around, but that the whole concept of a man is supposed to rule the house, right? Well, I don't think those old schoolers ever thought about the whole process of, man, well, what if a man is a man. Fuck, now I'm getting confused. Fuck my life.
You're all right.
It's because
it's a confusing thing because you're in one generation, but you're looking back at other generations for examples of what to be, and that's where it all gets so confusing to me, and I
100%.
That's why I asked it. There is no easy answer to this question, and you think there is because it's so simple, right?
It's absolutely not simple, and that's why I'm so damn confused. Because so like you said, most of us are looking backwards. Like my father was super macho, just like try to rule the house.
Right.
I imagine my grandfather, he had 13, 14, 15 kids. He was trying to rule the house. But looking back, the man of the house was not my grandfather or my dad. The man of the house is my mom or my grandmother. So, I mean, what makes a man? A man is a man who's supposed to support his old lady, his wife, his partner, and 100% back her while she has his back too. So, I mean, a man is a vessel who is there to teach the next generation the proper way to be, the proper way to act, the proper way to, respectfully cruise through this journey we call life. You know what I mean? Am I wrong? Fuck, probably. Am I right? Probably not. You know what I mean?
There is no right or wrong answer. That's the thing.
Exactly.
To everybody, it's different. I don't want to stereotype you in any way, but you have this great ability because you're here in America. You were born here, but you also know people that grew up and were raised in Mexico.
Correct.
So the perception you have of a man is just so unique in the fact that multicultural men, and that's something I don't have. And so it was important that I found out just kind of from your perspective, because like I said, you are a tug rope of tradition and
Adam's tugging rope
and awareness. That's what he was doing before his camera came on. But what do you think, Jeffrey? Do you agree with Adam?
You, I do to a certain extent, and I'll provide a little bit more historical context because
Mm,
one of the things that we have to look at is that the idea and definition of a man has changed so much, and so just kind of going back over the last 500 years of written history alone, going back 2,000 years, you're going to see all of these definitions, what we have today versus what they are now, are
right.
very different. So, like, for example, like things that defined manhood, some things have stayed the same. Like, for example, military service is one that has very much stayed the same. It's just that now that's not something that is strictly limited to men. Now you have people serving in the military, and I think that's the right course
Yep.
Yeah,
because
progression.
I think anybody who's willing to sign up to do that is, well, number one, crazy, and number two, I think that takes a level of dedication that the idea that only men have that level of dedication is stupid. Like if you're
Right.
willing to fight and protect other people, like that's your thing. So to me, that's looking at some of these things that have changed. But even if you look at just like the last 200 years, for example, people who were tailors, like tailoring was considered a man's job.
Mm-hmm.
And now if you do clothing, like people start to wonder, are you really a man? Are you gay?
Right.
What's going on here? Like
Mhm.
gay men aren't men, for example. It's a weird thing. Uh
That's
art
kind of where I was hoping this would go at some point, would butt up against the traditional version of
art
what a man is and the other sexual version of what a man should be. So thank you.
even as recently as 1950, because I've got this sitting at home with me.
Hmm.
Being a barber was a man's job, being a hairstylist was a woman's job, and you
Right.
didn't cross those two realms. But now men get weirded out if they have a male barber because a man touching their face is gay.
Is it?
Is it?
No, it's not fucking gay, it's fucking stupid.
Dude, I tell
Right.
you what, when Mr. Tyler cut my hair down at the Refined Man, here's a shameless plug for me, Refined Man Barbershop, I did not feel those feelings of like, oh man, there's a man touching me. I felt that, man, I'm getting somebody who's going to shave me up and is going to cut me up right. That's,
Right.
and see, now most people, I'm not going to say most men or most women, most people are now thinking, you know, that whole spectrum is a beautiful spectrum, but that's
Hmm.
just my spectrum. You know what I mean? I can't speak for you, Jeffrey. I don't. It's possible that we're aligned on that same spectrum where we don't see lines. We see colors. We see beauty. We see
Right.
everything that we need to see. That we actually see, that we're trying to project as a man to teach our children. Hey, this is what you should be seeing. You shouldn't be seeing black, white. That's it.
Right.
We're trying to see. Look at these palettes of colors.
Yeah.
Independence. When I was raising my daughter, I was raising her to be independent woman, independent, strong woman. You don't need to rely on anybody. You just need to know that your family has your back, that you can always come to your family. And if you ever needed your family would be there. Now, my son, on the other hand, I'm teaching him how to be, hey, one, don't be a fucking pig. Okay. You do not grab the fucking ladies. Do not mistreat ladies. Do not act like a fucking asshole around ladies. You know what I mean? I can't stress that enough because I see that growing up. I saw that, and now to see my son, who is the kindest, he's the most beautiful kid. He's 8 years old, going to be 9 pretty soon, but he is beautiful. He's kind, he's thoughtful, he's thinking about things like, he's like, ah, man, when he's wrong, I ask him, and he's like, yeah, man, I should have thought about that. I'm like, yes, yes,
Yeah.
I'm doing something right, because you know what? He is going to see the palette. He's going to see not only a man barber, he's going to see a woman barber, or he's going to see
Yeah.
a barber. How about that? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And that's a beautiful thing. The spectrum is just it's something that will define a man, not just what he does
But
and what
but it's a
can be
spectrum
done
that a
for him.
man can slide on, right? Like
A
a man
man,
can be sensitive when he needs to be. Like
100%.
I said, if your wife needs a hug and she needs someone to listen to, then yeah, you know what I mean? You're going to sit there and listen to your wife and you're going to give her a hug and be Mr. Sensitive. On the other hand, if she needs her tire changed, you're going to get the jack, you're going to pick up the, You're going to
Yep.
do what needs to be done. And that's what a man should be next man up. And the responsibility shouldn't be gendered. Like
A
laundry
man,
shouldn't,
Right.
laundry shouldn't be a man or a woman thing. Like cutting a tree down shouldn't be a man or a woman thing. It should just be next man up ability, or whether you do it together or
yep,
whether you're fighting as a team on different fronts to accomplish something. You
yep,
know?
Yep.
agreed.
And you know, and really, like, for me, like, the problem with the idea of what is a man is
Thank you.
this idea that there's going to be this inherent box that if you fall into this, you're a man, and anything else is not.
Right.
So for me, like, I've had to really sit down and rethink that and start thinking about, instead of asking what it is to be a man, what is it to be human instead?
I love how
Like,
he goes where I want to go. That's what was in my
because
head 2 minutes ago. I was like,
because
I'm
yeah.
still primitive, man. I'm very primitive when it comes to Jeffrey. You know, and I'm not ashamed of it either, man. I'm not ashamed of it. Go ahead, Jeffrey. I'm sorry.
no. So the reality is like, for me growing up, like, you know, my father figures were terrible examples. You know, best example I had was my mom.
Right.
And so I had to learn a lot of lessons from my mom on what to do and what not to do.
Me too.
In fact, like me getting started working on vehicles, it wasn't my dad or my stepdad teaching me. It was my mom teaching me, because my mom worked in her dad's muffler shop. And so
Yeah.
learning vehicles started with my mom. The fact of the matter is that, you know, when it came to really learning how to dress animals, it wasn't my dad or my stepdad that taught me. It was actually my mom, who used to clean my dad's animals after he had killed them. Like, the idea that, you know, that all of these lessons should have come from one place and not the other is completely asinine. Where I grew up, you know, and a lot of times, you know, it didn't really matter. You had people running combines, you had people driving trucks, you had people fulfilling various needs. And it's time to stop thinking of this in gendered roles. It's like, what is it
Mhm.
that you're good at? What are you going to do? What are you going to teach the next generation?
100%. 100%.
Right.
What's going
Because
to make a man is his legacy. What is his legacy? His children. What's his children going to do? How are his children going to act? How are the children going to be? You want those children to
Right.
be little assholes? Hell no. You know what? A man is defined, and this is why I'm primitive there, Jeffrey. A man is defined by how he teaches his children to act when he goes out and they go out into the world.
mhm,
So me being me, and me being having my father in my life, raised by my mother, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And
Right.
mhm,
it was completely along the same lines. I mean, every time I needed to learn something, it was my mom. Hey, we're going to Los Angeles. You know, we're going to East LA. We're going to go see your family, your cousins, and talk about life on the trip. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
mhm.
And mom was always the one to teach me about this, teach me about that. Shit, now she tells me I make better enchiladas than her. I don't believe it. I don't believe.
Yeah,
I do
there's
not.
certain things like, you know, watching my mom make an apple pie from scratch is by far the most amazing thing that I've.
Legendary.
Oh
Oh,
God, and
yeah.
it tastes the same every single time, and it's so good every single time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, for me, like, going camping, literally starting fires and setting up tents. The only person who ever took me camping was my mom.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. So what is a man? You
Good
know,
That's
question. Whatever he wants to be. I think that
whatever.
somebody's determined at the end of their life, not in the middle. So you can't tell me I'm good or bad until the vote's in, till I'm
Yep.
dead. And then
Yeah.
you can say he was whatever you think I was. But
Right.
I
as
think
a
that I
as
think
a
that being a
human.
good man means being a good human, and that means being comfortable with your decisions throughout your life.
Yep.
it-
Full
the
send.
Realistically, for me, like, my hope is that I have passed on some good enough lessons to
Hmm.
my kids, and that they take the best of what I had to give,
Right.
and they either use it because it still holds up, or they tweak it so that way it's better for the next group. Like,
Yes.
Wait, that's
in the
awesome.
end, like in the end, like, this desire to, you know, like,
Genderfied.
that's the this desire to, like, have your name live on in some way, shape, or form,
Hmm.
to me is a fool's errand, because who am I? Who should give a shit who I am? Like, if my legacy is just, enough to where that I taught some great lessons to the people around me that they were able to take and make better,
Yeah.
fantastic. Great. If I end up doing something that's really cool that, persists, in society for a while longer, also awesome. But that's not my running goal.
Right.
In the end,
That's where I differ. That's where I disagree. I think my running goal, I know my running goal is my legacy of my children. My name, I want my name to live on with my kids. I want my kids to be able to tell stories like I tell stories of my grandfather or my grandfather's grandfather or my great 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 grandfather. You know what I mean? These stories, these legacies, but every story. Now here's where it gets different, where it kind of aligns with you now, Jeffrey, where every story comes down and it comes down to me. I want my story being told where my name being said, well, you know what? He did how he learned from his father, but he tweaked it to make it better for his children. And my children telling stories. I'm like, yeah, well, you know what? My grandfather was an asshole, but my father, you know what? He did better. He did a lot better. He didn't beat my ass. He didn't leave my ass, stranded at high school because I was playing a white boy sport. He didn't kick me out of the house for defending his mother. You know what I mean? It's my name, my legacy, is my children. I want my children to be fucking happy. And if they're truly happy, my name lives on. And that's my striving goal. That's my primitive goal as a man that I am, being one, a proud Mexican, two, being proud American, born here in America. I want my name to live on because I want to I am the first of my generation to be born here in the United States. I am the first of my generation to change the narrative on how a man is supposed to be.
Right.
I am the first gen to raise my children way better than I could have been raised. You know what I mean? Not because of the means, not because of the time, not because of the money, but because of my heart. You know what I mean? And that's what I think is the most important as a man, to make my name live on. You know what I mean? So that's where I disagree with you there, Jeffrey. But at the same time, I agree 100%. You know what I mean? If that makes sense.
No, it does. And that's the thing is like, even for me, like there is some legacy that has carried on. Like, for example, I talk about William Henry Seward a lot, Abraham Lincoln, Secretary of State, someone who was so upset at the institution of slavery that he literally, threw away his chance at being the next president because he wouldn't tone it back. And he lost to Lincoln, who ultimately would select him to be a Secretary of State. And so there's some things that my name does carry with it, and those are things that I'm absolutely proud of, and those are things that I'm going to keep teaching and keep moving forward. But the idea that my name has to carry on is not a thing for me personally. It's, to me, the lessons that I can teach are far more important than the name, because the lessons are the things that are going to keep moving on, keep progressing forward.
Now, along those same lines, Jeffrey, let me ask this question to the both of you guys. Do you think ego has a lot to do with what is a man?
Absolutely. No question.
Yeah. Yeah, it just doesn't seem like none of us have the ego of that. But I think maybe in certain demographics, I think perspective is, I think peer pressure is, though. Like a guy that is a man and you're acting different than him and he's judging you because you're not like him. I think that has a lot to do with it, the stereotypes. But I don't know. I think we're all pretty confident ego-wise,
I think it depends. It depends on, I mean, ego absolutely is something that drives it, but behind that, what is it that's driving that ego? I think that's actually what you have to strip back to. Because for some people it's clearly about being personally noticed. Like they have to be like it's them being noticed, it's them being any sort of positive recognition has to be on them. And then the same token, you'll find that a lot of the same people will take that negative recognition and disperse it to the wind, because their ego can't handle the fact that if they're wrong, they're wrong, and so it has to be somebody else's fault.
You see, here's
Right.
where I take my mother's approach onto things, man. My mom worked. Well, my dad was out starting franchises in different states, if you will,
Right.
different cities, if you will. By franchises, I mean different kids. My
Mm,
mom was working 3 jobs. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And her ego was so, how do I put it, non-existent.
Right.
She worked so hard and got so little credit for 4 little assholes who were growing up, practically in poverty, but we didn't know it. We were fucking happy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
So take that lesson, knowing goddamn well that my kids won't appreciate what they've got. They won't understand what we went through to get
Yeah.
to the point where we're at. They won't understand all the shit that we're providing for them. You know what I mean? The roof over their head, the clothes on their back, the
Mm-hmm.
electricity, the internets, the insert whatever the fuck we got here in the house. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that by taking that strong mentality and shaping the man that I am today, I think that ego comes into effect a little bit by saying, hey, shit, look at me. I'm proud that I did this.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't give a fuck who outside of my circle, inside of my house, notices, and I could give two
Right.
shits. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
that's where my ego comes into play, where it's like, yeah, man, inside my house, yeah, fucking A, man, this is the shit. Outside my house, fuck you. I don't care. You can all kiss my whole assholes. You know what I'm saying? Like to quote
Yeah.
Dustin Poirier from last night. But I just don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
where are we going to push this narrative? How are we going to teach these kids? I mean, these kids who weren't raised by good parents or one good parent, what I mean, to
Mm-hmm.
instill that value. Well, how is that going to come into play? And that's what I
Yeah.
worry about the most,
It's just
Mm-hmm.
weird that we're looking at media, social media, TV, internet, and we're looking at like what media portrays as a great man
Yeah.
or a great, husband or a great dad. And then we go back and we want to emulate that, but we have no real examples of that in real life. Like you
100%.
said, like my dad left when I was 3 and came back dead when I was 17. So I didn't have that role model, but
Yep.
media told me what a man should be. You know what I mean? And I had I
Yes.
had I had a limited number of examples from TV to learn from because every man was like the same Tim Allen type or whatever, like they weren't super sensitive. And then I got to know guys like Adam and Jeffrey, and then it started to change and I started to have real examples of what real men should be like, and I realized that I'm no different than you guys.
Yeah,
I
you're
like that.
not, man. You're a kind, sensitive son of a bitch, just like me.
Yeah, but we
Yeah.
You know?
we need to stop like pretending that our life is going to be something like the Brady Bunch,
Oh
like
hell no.
that life
Oh,
is
hell no. I mean,
like,
imagine what's his name? What was his name of the Brady Bunch? What was the dad's name?
yeah, I don't know. What was it?
Will Sasso,
Mike?
Will Farrell, Mike
Mike?
Wachowski.
I don't know.
No, no,
I know he was a drunk that beat women, like the
Yeah.
in real
original guy.
life.
So
Yeah, so let me ask you this, man. Let's go into the media circus here.
yeah.
Growing up, both of you guys, I'm gonna ask this question to you guys too. Growing up, who was the role model you seen on TV that you wanted to be like?
Bill Cosby. That's sad.
That- it is sad. I know why you said Bill Cosby, because on TV he played this fantastic parent, right?
Great dad. Yeah, just a
Yeah.
great dad.
Jeffrey?
None of them. I for me, like, I resented a lot of it simply because, my dad wasn't around and my stepdad was a giant piece of shit. So
Hmm.
Mhm.
like I resented all of it. I hated all of it. I couldn't relate to any of them.
Right.
So like the for me, like, all I saw on television was lies and bullshit because that was not anything close to what I grew up with.
Yeah, nothing on TV resembled my life at all.
100%.
That's for
100%.
sure.
For me, it was William Shatner. You know why? He was banging all sorts of red and green ladies. Color was
Mhm.
nothing to him. And I was like, man, I want to do that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
did it represent my life completely? Fuck no, it didn't. It was completely nothing like my life. I mean, nothing like my life. My dad never prepped me for going into public schools. I went into schools blind, not knowing
Right.
English, not knowing a goddamn lick of English, getting beat up every single fucking day. I was like, damn, this really sucks. Not knowing. And then finally I learned English in the 3rd grade. All these assholes making fun of me, all here's Adam because he doesn't speak any English. And I'm like, my first words were, well, fuck you.
Yeah, right.
Principal's office I went, you know what I mean? I learned English over the summer, motherfuckers. To the principal's office. Yes, okay. My dad never prepped me for that.
Right.
All he prepped me for was when I got called, got in trouble for that shit, at school. Man, he picked me up he snatched me up from school, beat my ass when I got home, and right to work I went. And that was my punishment.
Yeah,
I'm
but
like,
didn't bother to
shit.
tell you how to get through the situation, you know what I mean?
Right. My mom, on the other hand, was like, look, this is what you have to, you have to learn, teach me, and then by teaching me, we can teach the rest of the kids in the family, and we can be better than what your dad is right now. Oh, that's what a man's supposed to be.
Better than what came before him.
Right.
Ooh, I
Right.
like that.
So it's William Shatner. It's still William Shatner. I see no colors. I see beauty.
I
You know
love
what I mean?
that.
But no,
But still, you have what you've evolved into what a man like. For me, being the straight line in a situation while everybody else is going up and down and crazy, remaining steady Eddie in a crisis, to me is what I want to portray a man to be. Is there something that you do that you want your son to see by example, but you're not telling him, but just something that you want him to know a man is?
yeah. I mean,
A
I want
human,
him.
a human, a man, a human, a man. You know what I
I
mean?
want him to see that, by treating other people, by talking to other people, by listening to other people, that you can open up a whole different world as opposed to these closed-minded individuals. And
Yeah.
so when he sees me talking to other people and he sees that they're laughing when they're talking to me, man, why not try to be kind to that person? It doesn't even matter what person it is. I mean, man,
Yeah.
woman, doesn't matter what color, because my friends, I have a plethora of friends of all colors and races, and I don't give a shit about color and race. I see heart. I see their soul. I can see their color when you approach them. You know what I mean? You could
Yeah.
tell when, for me, for whatever reason, I can come up to somebody and I'm like, ooh, yeah, you're not a very good person, because I could feel it. I could see your color. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's not skin color, man. It's your aura. It's how you project yourself. So if my son could see that when I'm talking to somebody and they're having a good time talking to me, that's what I want him to learn. That's the one thing I want him to learn.
Okay. Is there anything, Jeffrey, that you just think you personally want to portray as what you think the future men should be more like?
Yeah, actually, I think being listeners to others' experiences is going to be huge for us moving forward. Because, we've lived in a society dominated where it was our point of view and our point of view alone. And now that we have the ability to hear a vast array of points of view, we're going to learn some things that, I'm not gonna lie, I'm sure, and I'm sure Adam's felt this. We learn some things, and you kind of feel a bit attacked. You're like, why you say this, but that I'm not like that. Why would you say it? And then you're like, oh, okay, let's think about this for a little bit. Let's sit down and go, why? Okay, so I may not act like this, but by not calling out certain people who do act like this, I'm perpetuating. Okay,
Right.
I get it. And being able to be silent, take those lessons and apply them is, I think, for us, the most crucial thing moving forward.
It is super crucial, dude. You know how hard it is for me to be silent, and I got a loud
Yeah.
motherfucking mouth too.
Yeah.
I
Me
hear
too.
shit, and I just want to, oh, motherfucker.
I
First
got
instinct in my,
opinions on everything, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
But it takes a man to actually learn to be silent sometimes, right? How
Yeah.
difficult is that for you and me, Jason, Jeffrey? I mean, it's difficult for me, I can tell you that.
It's tough. But you know what?
Oh,
All three things that we want to emulate as men aren't male sort of things. Like women and men could both use those life lessons.
Yep.
That's
Mhm.
what's so weird and amazing about this wanting to know what a man is and wanting to be more manly. Like, what is it? I
Yeah.
mean, if you wear pink panties, are you less of a man? You know what I mean? I don't think so. I think I think having confidence and owning your decisions and the repercussions of your decisions is being a human. It's what I want everyone to be like. But as a man, I want to do that. I want to own my own shit. You know,
Yep.
what I do, what I say, I did it. I said it. You know?
Yep. Admit when you're wrong, pass that
Mm-hmm.
lesson on, learn that lesson, whatever. Take your lashing. Guess what? Yep, I made that mistake. I admit
Right.
I am wrong.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. I just want to be able to like walk into a world where you know what, you see a fucking a gorgeous woman or a gorgeous man, and you're like, damn, fuck, that's beautiful.
Yeah. Right.
And I practice that every fucking day. I try to do that. It's like, man, that's a fucking handsome dude right there. Look at that guy. Look at the cheeks on that dude. You don't want to objectify the son of a bitch, but at the same time, you want to be, be confident in yourself. It's like, man, that's a, you know what, handsome dude. What a beautiful woman. You know what I mean? Hey, what beautiful kids. What a beautiful fucking family.
Yeah.
Motherfuckers, man. You know what I mean? We should be able to live in a world where we don't have to, live in fear of being judged, though, which
Mhm.
is always going to happen. It's always going to
Yeah.
happen.
But what are we being judged for if there's no definition? That's my point. You know?
We're being judged on somebody else's definition, and that's the real answer.
Right.
You know, that's the real answer. Everybody has their own definition,
Mhm.
and the moment that you fall outside of that box, you're
Right.
less than. And that's
Yeah.
and that's the biggest problem is that
Mhm.
while the three of us can sit down and objectively come up with a definition, or in most cases it seems like a lack thereof,
The lack
it's
thereof.
really it's
Yeah.
not a box. It's it's an open world that has very few rules that
Yeah.
we've put on purpose, because when you start limiting what you put into that definition, that's where people want to be able to classify you as an other.
Mhm.
Right. But
Mhm.
that's
And the fact of the matter is that what's in that box changes, and it's changed from the 1950s to now. It's changed from the 1800s to
mhm.
now. It's changed from the 1500s to now. It's changed from the 1000s to now. It's changed from 0 AD to now.
It's
Right.
changed from Jeffrey was 10 to Jeffrey is this age. You know what I mean?
100%.
As a
100%.
person, what you thought was a man changed. I know I used to think I needed stubble on my face to be a man, and then I realized that women don't want you kiss you with stubble. So being a man means kissing a woman. I need to get rid of the stubble. Or go like you do, full on, you know what I mean? Soft hair.
That's why I got a beard, because fuck all that.
But I
Yeah.
did want to leave I was hoping that this conversation would be left open-ended so that people would stop and think to themselves, what do I really think a man is?
Yeah.
Like, you
Hmm.
know, like somebody that doesn't um identify one way or another has male attributes and at times could be more manly than me when I'm being sensitive and sweet.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so that's so weird to me. Like you were talking about servicemen and women, and I thought to myself, I want to change that term to fighting folks because
Hmm.
there's more than just men and women in the army. There's
Hmm.
transitioning. And so we need to get past that there's only men and women there,
Yeah.
because of that other thing you were talking about.
Hmm. It's the we have placed these boxes,
Yeah.
and for reasons unknown.
Right.
Like, and we allow that definition to change. And I'm sure that if you ask the question of what is a woman, that definition has changed multiple times too.
Yeah.
What does it mean to actually just be a person? Like, if because we're all people,
Right.
that's really, what does it mean to be a good person is
Right.
really
100%.
the question that we we really need to be asking and answering,
So
Yeah.
because
being a good man or a good woman just simply means being a good person.
just be a good person, man, woman, the entire spectrum.
Yeah.
I'm veterinary.
Yeah. It doesn't even matter, man. I mean, if you were able to be nurturing and
Mhm.
caring and strong, it's not identified by man or woman at this point. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Right.
If you're a great person, a great human, you're nurturing, you're caring, you're supportive, you're loving, you're you're all these amazing things that used to be narrowed down to a woman or a man.
Yeah,
Now it's how are
right.
you to be a great human? You know,
Yeah, and that means just taking care of what's next and what's in front of you. Like I said,
100%.
if I'm doing the dishes because my wife cooked dinner and then I'm doing the laundry because she's walking the dog, or I'm changing the sheets and she's getting the blankets out of the dryer, it's just what's next. And
It's
if
a
I have to
team
be
effort.
sweet, if I have to be sweet and hold a little baby and think it's the cutest thing in the world and smell baby powder, I'll do that. And if I gotta throw fists or something because somebody is disrespecting my friends, I'll do that too.
Yeah.
And if one of my gay friends is getting picked on for being gay, I'm going to stand right behind him and claim to be gay. That's what I'm going to do as a man, is take care of what's next on the list to be taken care of.
Yep.
And I would just, I would even say, don't claim to be gay. Just be like, why is it a fucking problem?
Why is it a
Yeah.
problem? Exactly.
It's not.
Why
It's not a
why
problem.
stand behind him? Why not beside him?
Beside him, behind
Yeah.
him, wherever it needs. Depends on his size, I guess.
I'm standing right next to my friend. I don't give a shit. You know, it was like,
That's my point. Yeah.
you're
is
going
that
to war. I'm
My
going
friend,
to war.
my friend might need to grab me and hold me back because I might be the one going in swinging first.
You might be the guy
Right.
eating that person after you swing on him too. So I better hold you back, bro.
That's my point. I am fully going to support people. And that's friends and strangers. You know, I've
Yes.
gotten out of the car to help people push their cars out of the snow. I've helped people get their groceries when they spilled them. It's just doing what's next as a human.
Yes.
And I like
Yes.
that.
And it just goes back to that whole, it goes to the whole discussion of, what rights do we have and
Mm.
what rights have been taken away from others. The answer is that the three of us here know that we have a lot of rights that other people don't have. And
Right.
we've got to be the ones that say, you know what, just because these people should have these rights, that doesn't mean that the three of us have less rights.
Right.
Right.
I agree.
We while there are people that are going to be out there, on the front lines fighting it, it's our job to support in the ways that we are asked of.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think
all
it's
we
our
can do.
role to make people stop and think about these things they think are obvious.
Yep.
Like, what is a man? Suddenly somebody's walking around like, wow, what is a man? And I like the idea of that. I hope we changed a mind just by getting somebody to think about a question they never would have thought of.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. I agree.
And I'm so
100%.
happy to have you all here to do that. You know what I mean?
A lot
I'm
of fun.
the primitive guy. Jeffrey's the brain. I fucking
Oh,
love it.
No, I was telling Jeffrey, I was like, the thing is that Jeffrey and I are a lot like the right side of the brain,
Mhm.
but Devi and you're the left side of the brain, and it just feels unbalanced without having representation from one of you here. Because
Right.
Adam Has a Beard is big on mental health. It's big
Huge.
on men being sensitive, being real. It's about people connecting. It's about all of those emotional things that go into it. Not a bill, not a policy, but why people feel the way they do. And that's why it's important to have Adam Has a Beard in the network, you know?
I love being part of this network. I do. I really truly do. I see people like I have a friend by the name of Danica who is hardcore feminist. Now, being a hardcore feminist doesn't mean necessarily that she hates anybody. It just means that she believes in a certain set of rules that
Mhm.
or guidelines that I happen to side with. And I'm like, well, shit, why can't a woman not have to be, catcalled all the time? Or why can't, hey, if you're going to slide
Right.
into this girl's DMs, why can't you say it publicly?
Right.
I mean, so I side with her 100%. And so, like, for me, for Ahab, for who is now run by Sean took a job, so we'll see you later, Sean. But I mean, but now that I'm on there 100%, I'm still trying to strive to be a better co-host or be a better host
Yeah.
and being broader messages and more attention to the focus of these things like feminism, people
Mhm.
transitioning, people, people's mental health, people learning, people growing. I mean, I strongly believe in that. You believed in that when I came to you with like, hey man, I got an idea for a podcast. You're like, let's do it.
Yeah. And then I
Mhm.
stayed out of the way and let you evolve it the way you wanted, you know?
And you just did that. And so I think that by
Yeah.
having, believing in that mental health and believing in the mental growth and believing in and loving everybody for who they are. And
Yeah.
I say it till I'm blue in the fucking face, man. Everybody love everybody, and I fucking mean it, because
Yeah.
there's no room for hatred. There's no room. I don't give a shit what color they are. I don't give a shit what gender they are, what the pronouns they use. If you're a
Right.
kind fucking human, you have me as an ally. It's
Mhm.
when you turn shitty,
Right.
and I'm gonna fuck you up.
Like
And
you think about it, it takes so much energy just to be a dickhead to people.
Yes.
yeah, it does.
I'm all
right?
about you do the lazy thing and just be good to everybody.
Yes, I just move
It's a
on so
lazy-
fast. Like I was saying, I think in the first hour, when somebody shows me they're an asshole, I say thank you and move on. I just don't want it to be
Yes.
20 years after we meet, you know?
Right.
100% I agree with you, man. I mean, how many times have I had that done? Like,
Yeah.
oh shit, man, I've known you all my life. Oh, you're an asshole. Damn it.
Ah,
Right.
fuck.
Fuck. I grew up and you didn't. Ah, damn it.
Like the only hard thing about being a good person is when you learn a new lesson and implementing it. Really,
Yeah,
that
right.
should be the hardest part about it. And
Yes.
trust me, I've had to take some time to learn some things, especially lately. And you know what? You end up being the better person for it, because then it's like,
Mhm.
well, why was I that way to begin with?
Yeah.
Right.
Work was I putting in order to maintain this?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
So I had a friend that showed me that I assumed every woman I saw had something that I was entitled to. And
Wow.
I didn't realize it until I met her. Then I was just like, well, what am I going to get from her? And she was constantly saying, you're not entitled to anything here.
Right.
And I would be like, thank you. And we'd go out and I'd look at a girl and she'd be like, you're not entitled to anything she has to offer either. And I was like, thank you. And I humbled me, man. Because you look at a
Mhm.
woman in the store and you're like, ooh, I want to get to know her. And you're like, hi, can we go out and date and have sex? And she's like, no. And you're like, well, how about if I just get your number? And she's like, no. And you're like, how about whatever's next? Until she gives you something, right? You're not entitled to anything. Like
Nope.
you're
Right.
invading her space just simply by
100%.
going over there. Now,
Yeah.
if you look at her and she looks at you and you decide to connect, that's a different story. You know what I mean? But
Right.
I'm not entitled to anything that anybody else on the planet has to
No.
offer.
Yeah, I love, see, my favorite thing to do is like when I go out, it doesn't matter where I go out, you know what I mean? I like to see people. I like to see people.
Yeah.
Fuck, you know what I mean? You
You
know
like to
how
see people fuck?
I
Yeah,
like
yeah,
to
When you
yeah.
see
go out?
people fuck. Yeah. I like to see people, sometimes they get themselves ready. Sometimes they just
Mhm.
get out and they're out, you know what I mean? And just
Yeah.
to see their true natural beauty, or to see them, what they took the time to put on their makeup, that's a lot of fucking effort to put on makeup.
Yeah.
For them to, but they're not specifically asking for anybody's attention. They're just saying, man, fuck, I feel confident today. I put on makeup. I did my fucking face. I did my hair,
Yeah.
whatever the fuck that is they did. And it makes them look beautiful. Hey, how about this? Man, how about this? Admire from a distance. Look at them. Oh, fuck, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Move
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Move on. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Don't dwell on the fucking looking at her cheeks or anything.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, I try my hardest to not be that primitive caveman, because I don't believe
Mhm.
that I want my daughter to go out and taking the time to do her makeup the way she does and her
Right.
hair the way she does. I don't want some fucking asshole be like, oh man, fuck, And I'm not saying that you're an asshole, Jason, by any means. But what I'm
No,
saying
it's
is,
it's who I was. I evolved because of a strong woman like Jeffrey has. I was just thinking
yes,
about how lucky he has to have Devi, to where every time he comes up to a questionable barrier, they're there to kind of say,
I love that. I love that.
no.
Hmm.
Like I
Yeah,
have a friend, Lexi, and she's super patient with me. And sometimes I'm kind of caveman-y about it. And then I come back and I explain, like, all right, I thought it through. You're right, and she gives me this total space to do that.
man,
It's as long
it's
as I'm
amazing.
evolving, then I get the politeness. If I'm not evolving though, these women that I've brought into my life, these strong women, they will drop me in a heartbeat because
Hmm.
I'm not
100%.
evolving, because
Right.
I'm not
You're not
learning my
learning.
lessons.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. Yeah,
Mm,
that's a good thing, man. I'm glad that we're all evolving and aware. That's the big thing too, is
yeah,
are we aware?
Hmm.
right.
So,
And that's one of the biggest challenges is that, man, it's easy to sit down and keep doing some things that you've been doing for your entire life, and then finally you get called out onto the carpet, and then it's like
Hmm.
now you're aware of it. What are
Yeah.
you going to do about it?
What are you
Like,
gonna do about it?
are you actually going to learn your lesson? Are you actually going to make changes?
Yeah.
Or are you going to, choose the path of willful ignorance and I'll be an asshole?
Yeah.
But yeah, I always say ignorance is a lack of knowing. Stupidity is knowing but still remaining the same. You know what I
Damn.
mean? So I don't mind ignorant people. I hate stupid people because once you know
100%.
decided to be an asshole, that's different.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that
Yeah.
goes for anybody, anywhere. But I
Mhm.
want to say what Adam was saying is so true because one of the most beautiful things on the planet is a perfectly happy person.
100%.
It's not
Mhm.
stressed, not worried, not feeling like not safe. Somebody that's just happy and just babbling and laughing and just spilling things. I love people that are happy.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I love it. I love it. One of my favorite people to go see is Mixed Debbie. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I go in there, we sit there, we laugh, right? And
Yeah.
she's happy. I mean, I go in there sure to get my haircut, but man, I'm just seeing a friend. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
Right.
and it's amazing because I know that when I'm in there getting my haircut, I'm gonna fucking laugh for a good 35, 45 minutes, wherever long my hair. And not only am I laughing, when I'm done laughing, I'm leaving. My fucking face is like, ah, fuck, she fucking killed me. I'm fucking
Yeah.
dying. My face is not fucking right. You know what I mean? Because I've been
Yeah.
laughing for 45 fucking minutes. You
They're
know,
the best.
the other person I like talking to is like, it's Jeffrey. Fuck, man. I said,
Yeah.
how many messages do you send me back and forth? You send me pictures, and I'm fucking dying. But I know what? My boy is happy, and he sent me messages, and it makes me fucking happy. It makes me laugh. If I talk to Jason, I learned something, and
Yeah.
I'm always fucking laughing. We're like, he's like, like yesterday, you sent me messages, hey, bro, this is not. I'm like, fuck, dude, this would be my honor to come fucking be on your show, dude. Hell yes, you know what I mean? So being around happy people, man, it's a fucking good thing. You know what I mean? It's a
Yeah.
great
Mhm.
thing. And I think people don't realize that your mental health is really greatly affected by the people that you surround yourself with.
Oh,
Yeah.
huge, huge,
You
huge.
know? So that's a big factor too. Mental health is strong with these two right here. These two, 1, 2, you know what I'm saying? Mental health is a very aware thing. Be cognizant of what you bring into your circle because it'll
Mm.
ultimately kill you. You
And,
know?
Yeah.
and that's the thing is like mental health is a lot of work and you have to be willing to put in that work,
Yep.
Yeah.
and you you can make excuses as long as you want, but it's on you ultimately to take care of your own mental health.
Yep.
Or you might end up getting the boot in the ass that you didn't know you needed,
Right.
and it's going to sting a little bit
Yep.
until you start doing the work.
Exactly.
And you got to be aware of your mental health affecting other people's mental health. And other
Yes.
people have to be aware that other people's mental health is affecting their mental health. You know,
Mhm.
Yeah.
like
That's
sometimes it's your life lesson to learn, and other times you're just support for other people learning their life
Yes.
lesson. And don't get in their way. Like,
Yeah.
don't prevent them from learning something, but also don't allow somebody to prevent you from learning as well. You know?
Yeah.
That mental health aspect of knowing your own limits, that's something that I've had to work on teaching my kids,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
because you being a kind person and wanting to help everybody, you still have to know your own limits before it starts affecting your own mental health negatively, and that's
100%.
hard. That's a
Yeah.
Agreed.
hard thing to do.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And
Yeah.
how much are you? How many times are you saving other people, but forget to save yourself? You know.
Hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody told me they write a list every day of the things they're grateful for. And I asked her, how often are you on the list? And she
Damn.
was like, ooh,
Hmm.
oh,
Damn.
yeah, you know? And then
Hmm.
somebody said, I'm tired of being a backup plan to other people. And I was like, then put yourself first because you're the one that matters. It's these simple little things that people don't realize. I believe that if I can make a decision that lifts two people up or more, then it's a decision worth making, right?
Yep. Right.
But if it's something that only affects me, I'll do whatever I want. But I'm gonna try and make the right decision when it affects Adam or Jeffrey. So here's the
Hmm.
question then. I'm gonna go with Jeffrey first because I surprised Adam initially. What's a great manly movie?
Mm.
Mm.
I know because he did the Expendables last week, so he can't say it again this week.
You son of a bitch.
Yeah, right.
Um,
Well, I got a good one, if you
Yeah.
ask me. me.
Oh yeah, you're next.
Go. Go at put Adam on the spot for this one.
All
It's gonna take
right.
me a minute to think about this one.
So Adam, what's a manly movie?
Hate me if you want, dude. Good manly movie. The Notebook.
Whoa.
Tell
okay,
me
never
I'm fucking wrong, man. Tell me I'm fucking wrong. The man lived out his days loving one fucking woman. One
sweet.
woman.
That movie
Dude.
makes my father-in-law cry. He's like a 80-year-old Filipino guy.
Yeah.
Loves The Notebook. Makes you watch it when you go over there and cries all the way through it.
Yep. Let me tell you, that movie affected me pretty intense. Yep.
Nice.
Pretty fucking manly. Fight me.
That's a good one. That is actually a really good one.
Fight
Yeah.
me. 1600 Pennsylvania Ave. Knock on the front door. Tell me here to fight me. Go ahead.
The Notebook. The
The
manly
Notebook.
movie ever. Okay.
Let's see here. Manly sweet. I'm gonna have to go with, and y'all gonna have to fight me on this one.
What, give me your address. Text me to me. You haven't even said it yet.
Tremors.
Away. Oh, fucking, where are my keys? Give me where are my fucking keys? Get my fucking keys. I'm fucking fighting somebody. Fucking socks, dildo. What the fuck? I can't find my keys. God
Wait,
damn
you're gonna
it.
show up with a dildo? And
Yeah,
a sock?
fucking in a sock, bro.
Why
God.
Tremors?
Why Tremors?
Why Tremors? Well, you think about it. You're up against an unknown, and everybody gets involved in trying to fight this unknown thing. I mean, let's be realistic. You've got Kevin Bacon, the height of Kevin Bacon. You've got this unknown. You've got this unknown alien. Supposedly alien, but Precambrian life form that's eating people. And everybody gets involved in trying to get to safety. I mean, Reba McEntire was in that movie, and she's shooting some big ass fucking guns.
It's because she's a woman, dude. She's a fucking tank, is what she is.
Reba, if you're ever in Florida, you come and visit me.
Reba, if you're ever in Washington, come visit me and Jeffrey.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go with Tremors because let's be realistic. That movie was just absolutely over the top absurd. Guns, explosions, people trying to fight the unknown together.
I'm still saying The Notebook.
The Nutbook?
The Notebook.
The Nutbook.
Initially, I thought to myself, Reservoir Dogs.
Reservoir Dogs.
Mr. White and Mr. Pink and Mr. Yellow and Mr. Brown, and I loved it. It was just such a manly sort of movie. But now I'm thinking Howard the Duck because it's the biggest laughing stock I could think of, and maybe that's a better thing for what is a man. Howard the Duck, maybe better.
And see, that's what I'm saying with it. What is a man? The Notebook. The Notebook, bro.
Nice. I like this.
Howard the Duck.
Howard. Yeah. He made an appearance in the Marvel Universe.
Such a weird fucking movie.
Fantastic movie, though.
Oh my God. What next? Alf?
Elf.
Damn.
No, I did like Elf, though.
Hi, Joe Kids. Hi, Joe Cats.
Coming next on Public Access America, what makes a pet? What makes a woman? What makes a child? No.
What makes a pet? Well, you see, if you put a collar around their neck and then put a chain. Wait, hold on.
Wait a minute.
That also makes it great submissive. You know what I mean?
Oh shit, dude! Hell yeah.
I have non-pet collars in my totes.
Ew.
Love it. So everybody, don't forget to listen to or go check out Inspirations Beyond Disabilities. That was a great conversation that also involved what it means to be a man. Go check out Adam Has a Beard because I listen to every episode, even though you changed streams, motherfucker. You know what I mean? So I had to go and search for you again. But Adam Has a Beard has a new stream, so go look it up. You'll find it. But go find it.
We'll talk about that later because I need help. I don't know what the fuck happened.
You're doing just fine. You're doing just fine. Adam Has a Beard. Yours is the only feed anybody's ever going to find. But then come back and listen to Public Access America. It's this great thing involving a whole bunch of really good people having real conversations about real situations. And the more perspectives we involve in this, the more solutions we're going to come up that benefit more people. You know?
100%.
Absolutely.
100%. Yeah,
And
thanks
it's
for having me on the show, man. Thanks you for
Yeah.
including this
Yeah.
little caveman over here to you guys' show. And I love the fact that every time I listen to you guys, I learn a different perspective. I learn something different. I learn something new. I learn something way more technical than I could even think of. You know what I mean? And so
Me
for that,
too.
I love you
Mhm.
guys for that, man. You guys are fucking brilliant.
Me
You know?
too. One day Jeffrey's like, I'm just going to put Devi on because I don't feel qualified for this conversation. And I was like, then why am I the idiot that has to stay? You know, like, I'm not qualified either.
Surprise, motherfucker! You're gonna get owned.
Yeah. But here's my secret. I fall in love with people that teach me lessons like that. That
Yes.
put me in my place.
Yep.
I because the worst thing as a man is to be all gloating and boastful and find out that people are laughing at you because you're so
Yeah.
wrong. I
Yeah.
want to stay humble because when people say that's amazing, I want to be like, thanks. You know
Mhm.
what I mean?
Yes. Be humble and thanks. Thank you
Be,
very much.
be
Thank you.
humble
Thank
and thankful. Thank you for
Uh-huh.
listening to
Indeed.
Public